us on Facebook and they've heard of MorTrack or they've seen us at the shows because we do wear these bold sport coats, orange, very bright orange
Yes,
sport. Yeah, you've
yes.
probably seen them.
I
Yeah,
sure have. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Yep, I've had guys follow me and they're like, "Hey, I knew MorTrack was here when I saw you walk by. Tell me a little bit more." Yeah,
It's like the Dumb and Dumber outfits, you know?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Hey, we even thought about doing the orange tuxedos from Dumb and Dumber, but that might have been a little bit overboard.
You know, we're actually recording this today on Halloween, and
Oh,
I was coming back from downtown Chicago. I was out with a couple friends, and we were passing by the L. It's the train here, and there were two guys dressed up in the orange, outfits from Dumb and Dumber. I was like, "That's a good one. That's a good one right there." But that's your look. That's what you guys got going.
that's what we got going on. We got the orange and yeah. So a little bit about me. I've been in
Yeah.
sales. Golly, I tell everybody since college.
Hmm.
Probably longer than that. But I worked with an insurance company for 21 years and was looking for some change. And I met the owner of the actual name of our company is Karen Stack Software.
Okay.
And so a lot of people think it's just MorTrack, but I met the owner of this company through a group, and he was looking for making some changes. And so about 4 years ago today, well, I wouldn't say today, but it's close. About 4 years ago, came on board here, and at the time we didn't have MorTrack. We had other
Yeah.
pieces of software that we were tracking for fruits and vegetable side, and then anything from screws and bolts to rocket ship parts. So we track stuff good. And then
Yeah.
we had a removal company come to us and say, "Hey, can you build us something to track bodies?" So as we
Right.
started to look into it, and we started, I've learned a lot over the last couple
I'm
years,
sure.
um, and so we took this to market in around the end of 2021 in
Okay.
Cana in Seattle. That was our very first show. Um, but yeah, we just started to, some of our guys did ride-alongs to learn the industry with the company here,
That
and
must have
then
been a delight for them.
oh, I'm sure, yeah, yeah. Well, they would come back and they would tell me all about it, and
Happy to
I
be
was like,
doing what they're doing, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. But I will tell you one thing that I've worked with a lot of different industries out there, and there is one thing about this industry that I've mentioned all the time: the empathy level
Yeah,
that everybody has, and for everybody on this podcast, the empathy level you guys have for your families that you take care of and your clients is um, it's extraordinary.
we appreciate that.
Um,
Yeah.
and I really enjoy working with this industry because I worked with some other industries. I'm not going to say their names, but there's some that I'm like, I don't ever want to deal with them
Uh huh.
again. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to do with more track; it's on the tracks
Yeah.
I host.
I
But
don't blame you.
yeah, and so yeah, so we built this software and we started to do our homework and find out that um, there's some things that happen in the industry that I don't think anybody does it maliciously. I think it's just you guys are all busy and you know just keeping track of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And we thought, hey, well, we can help, and so that's you know let's put a proper chain of custody in place.
Hmm.
Let's have um, fields where clients can sign right there. So anyway, that's kind of how MoreTrack got started.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit, I guess, more from the beginning stages. So you said you would, you guys would track fruits and vegetables and rocket ships.
Mhm.
What? This is completely non-funeral related. Sorry,
Yeah.
everyone. But I'm
No.
just interested. Like, so what was the purpose of tracking those things, and what did you do in that aspect? And then how did that? I want to know the transition process after that. Can be our next part after that.
Oh, I think you froze up on me.
Oh, it's okay. What was I
Okay.
saying? Tell,
The transition process.
yeah, and then we could talk about transitioning into funeral service. So, how did it get started, and what was it like, or what do you actually do for tracking fruits and vegetables and rocket ships and
Yeah.
everything else?
Yeah. So my boss started the company, and he actually started, out here in Colorado tracking some stuff, and so I'll give you a prime example. Is like a couple years ago there was a big cantaloupe recall, and so
Okay.
with the cantaloupe recall, with our piece of software called PTI Print, they could
Oh,
go and see the lot numbers, where they were planted, where they were shipped to. So when they have that recall, they can,
wow.
pull those back. And that all is within our software. And then the
Wow.
Tracks IO piece, um, that is a piece of software where, think if you have inventory. I mean, it would even work for funeral homes if they wanted to track, fluids, like how many do you have on hand, you know, so I tell you, we work a lot with, audio visual companies. They got wiring. That wiring costs a lot of money,
Sure.
and they people pulling it off, and so in our software they can say, hey, we're taking 20 feet of this 1,000-foot spool, and then it keeps track of what's going out, what's coming in, or if it's
Interesting.
products. Let's say you have 10 TVs there, and all 10 TVs are exactly the same. There's going to be two things that make them different. One is their serial number, and the second thing is we basically assign it a code, and that code is unique to only that TV. So
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take that and I'm going to transition it into MorTrack,
Yeah.
because in MorTrack we do the same thing. So we have wristbands that would have, I don't have a wristband right here, but I'll show you.
Yeah.
So it's basically going to be that and a QR code. But if you see that readable code right there,
Yeah.
we're basically assigning that case a unique code
Got it.
that
And so
goes with that case.
you would put that on a toe tag,
Yeah,
typically, and that would be the distinguishing mark for that person.
yeah.
Yeah,
We,
keep
and
going.
we
Sorry.
provide and we provide. Sorry, I'm looking
The
around all
tags.
over
It's
here
all
because
right.
I thought I had some in here, but yeah, we provide the think of a hospital wristband
Yeah.
for like an ankle tag or whatever,
Yep.
and it's going to have a QR code, a human readable code, and then a white spot where they can
Right
write
in.
their name in. Some of our clients will print a little label off from the software and put on there.
Yeah.
Um, but I tell you, the biggest thing that we saw was the paperwork. In the beginning,
No doubt.
yeah, I had one client tell me that it was probably about a week or two after I signed him up about a year ago, and
Hmm.
he said, "You saved me 35 minutes per call." He
No
said,
kidding.
by us implementing this. He said, because my drivers don't have to sit out there and fill out paperwork anymore. It's all done. They go there as soon as we have a mobile app,
Uh
and
huh.
the mobile app is, we have built it, and we've had so many enhancements to it. But it is basically, you click on your case, you follow the prompts all the way through, and then once you're done, those forms are emailed to your own funeral home or to
Yeah.
your client's funeral home, and then they're on to the next case. Or what
Wow.
I think, one thing I saw, Michael, was, talking to people early on is,
Hmm.
throughout that process, if we can save your removal tech team 35 minutes per case,
It's huge.
what can you have them do back at the funeral home to help out in other areas?
Yeah.
Because we know right now that, employee retention's tough, even getting qualified
Yep.
new hires, I should
It's
say.
difficult.
And so if we can save some time here, or so you can increase, your removals, or you can increase your production from your team, then that's what we're trying to help with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool, and it's a wonderful way of keeping track because the old school way of just bringing a binder, bringing a piece of paper, or filling out in the car, or honestly, probably a lot of funeral homes still don't even do that. Which that's neither here nor there. That's the way, especially for smaller funeral homes. That's the way it goes. But this is something that you can cover your tracks, like you can cover your
Yeah.
bases, so that way you're not getting into any sticky situations down the road ever, because we know how meticulous we need to be as funeral directors. We cannot make a single error ever, ever.
Yeah.
Your business is gone. You're ruining someone else's life. All that stuff. No
Yeah.
errors. Can't do it. So this is another way that's just more foolproof to come in. So walk me through the process. Let's say a family gets a first call. How does that work? Does the office manager, whoever answers the call, put something into your app and then it shoots out? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So on that, if a family calls, or whoever may call a funeral home, and say you have a first call, they can take that information and they can either put it in our app, or they can use it on the desktop. And then once that case is in there, we have a map where it'll show where your removal techs are located throughout your city.
Wow.
We ping off their device. We ping off the device while they're logged into MorTrack. Once they log out, we don't track your device. We don't put anything on it. It's just we know when that app is open. And so you can see and say, okay, Michael's over here. Let's assign this case to Michael because he's, 3 miles down the road. And
Uh-huh.
so they can assign right there on their phone, or on the desktop, and it's going to send an alert to your phone. And then you would open up your MorTrack and you can either accept or decline that case. And basically, we're time stamping everything. So we're time stamping when it was reviewed, when it was assigned, when it was
Okay.
accepted, and then from there they will, verify ID, and then you can collect personal effects. So we have a couple different screens that have all kinds of stuff: watches, keys, tops, jeans.
Yeah.
And really, what we're doing in the background is we're filling out forms. So they walk through the app by just touching the buttons and following through.
Got
And then when
it.
they get to the end, they can have, the next of kin or whoever the releasing party is sign right there on
Off
their
the
phone.
personal effects, right.
And
Mm-hmm.
then it attaches to whatever documents you have in there. And we do have a lot of documents that are just general documents, but then we also have account specific documents.
Okay.
So let's say, Michael, your funeral home, you say, no, we have to use this document. Well, we would look at that, and then, we could digitize that for you. So you'd have your
Right.
own document in there. And then once they get
Very
back to the
cool.
facility, one of the coolest things that we just added was internal locations. So that was a piece that we were missing for the smaller funeral homes that may
Sure.
not be interested in a larger software that does that. So we added a small feature in ours, to you can label your locations. So if you have cold storage, you can label it all the way down to each row, each shelf,
Wow.
each spot, or you can just have it in there. And then as they move throughout the facility, you would take that decedent, scan their wristband, then scan the new location. So let's say they come in, to, prep, and
Mm-hmm.
then and move to storage, and then, they move to the main chapel
Right.
for the funeral. You can just move them throughout the process. But what we do in the background is it's pretty much, our job. Let me back up a little bit here. I had a not a client, but I had a guy at the NFDA convention, our very first one in
Uh-huh.
Tennessee. He told me, he said, most of these funeral directors in here are one lawsuit away from keeping their doors open or their doors closed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he said, what you guys do is, you're trying to protect them. And I said, yeah,
Yeah.
we live in a sue happy world, but we have, if you're doing everything, it's all time stamped, it's all documented. So if something comes up, we have those documents there for you to
Yeah.
use and say, hey, this is the process, and everything else. But yeah, then once they're, through your facility and stuff, like I said, you'll have the records there. We securely store all the information. We have three banks here with Amazon Web Services, and they're on HIPAA servers, so there's extra security in there.
Nice.
So you don't have to worry about that paper trail and
Right.
storing the paper. I've talked to many people that they say we have one whole office that is nothing but a storage room with boxes of paper.
We literally have that, like
Yeah,
at our funeral home in the basement since
yeah,
1921
yeah,
paperwork. And it fills up
yeah.
an entire room.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, like I said,
that's
originally we were just looking at tracking that decedent, but based on client feedback, based on market feedback, we've added a lot more features in there. You can dispatch from the software, sign the cases from there. Also, one thing that you can do is, inside the portal,
mhm.
there's statuses. So as you were saying, instead of somebody calling you or saying, "Hey, where are we at with this case?" Your employees can log in and they can look at the case and they can see exactly what's the status of that case. So if
Yeah.
they're, they might still be on site. Okay, they're on site. They've been there for, I don't know, 2 hours now. Okay,
Right.
might want to check on them and see what's going
You
on,
might need an
or
extra pair of hands. Maybe we're in the
yeah,
basement
yeah,
with
something's
a
going
big
on
boy.
there. Yeah, and so, or they pick up that decedent, and they're on their way back. You can look and say, okay, we need to get these things ready because
Yep.
they should be here in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's nice
Yeah,
as opposed to having to text someone and say, "Well, where are you?" or "What's the update?"
yeah,
Always having to be in touch. It's easier just to be able to track it. That's a cool thing.
yeah.
Also, really like the in-house tracking too, because if someone's going to the crematory, like whether you have it on site, off site, then you have those timestamps where like if the family ever does have an issue, it's like this is exactly where the remains have been the entire time. Specifically. I think it saves you first from some situations that you might not want to be in.
Yeah.
From what I gather, it seemed like the original premises for larger funeral homes or removal service type, if I can get that correct, if I'm
Yep.
correct. And
Hmm.
now you're
Yeah.
starting to branch a little bit more into the smaller funeral homes.
Yeah.
I guess tell us a little bit about the difference between the two, and who are you typically helping out nowadays?
Yeah, both. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell everybody, we work with small funeral homes that are doing maybe 15 cases a month,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to some removal companies that are doing over 1,000
Right.
a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, for those smaller funeral homes, or even what we've seen too is a lot of the removal companies now they're looking at storage, so they'll have storage back at their location. Um, you know, Even like funeral services, trade services,
Yeah.
when they come in. And so that's why we put that internal locations feature in, because we did a great job from getting them picked up, getting them back, and having all that. But once they're back at the facility,
Yeah.
that was some people were doing Excel spreadsheets. They're it's a paper process, and that's what they kept asking for was, hey, can we have something? And so we built that for our clients out there. It's available now to anybody, but um, working with working with the funeral homes, there's more of that internal process, the internal location tracking and stuff. We're really on the removal side. It's just about what we help them with is there's a lot of phone calls that usually happen back and
Right.
forth with the
Between
funeral home.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. But now the funeral home, they can put the information in through their own little portal that goes to their removal company. And so it's
That was going to
just,
be my next
yeah,
question.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what?
So,
So let's say I work with so and so removal company.
mhm.
I can go into the app like from Cooney Funeral Home, like my funeral home. I could go in there and to whatever removal service and say, "Hey, I have a removal at this house. Family's ready to go," and then just shoot it out. How does that work?
Yeah, yeah. So you would go into the software, you'd put the case information in, such as it'd be your funeral home would be our representing entity. Then you could put down yourself, or if there's another funeral director there, that's the main contact.
Uh huh.
So if there's any questions, the deceased name, and then they just need a pickup location and a destination. That's
Wow.
all the information that's needed. Now, within our software, we have a lot of settings where you can really personalize it to your, whatever you guys are looking for. I mean, you can put in there, the next of kin information. If you want Social Security, weight. I think weight is an important one because I heard that a lot, our first year about
It
how
kind of
great
makes
it
a
was.
difference.
Yeah, yeah, about how great it was that they could take the weight down so they know what they're getting into. I said, I'm a
Sure.
big guy, so they might need a couple people to come get me. But yeah, so you can get, I mean, if you want doctor's information, doctor's contact information,
Especially
I
for
mean,
in-home nursing home, though, that's huge.
yeah,
That all those little details that you can save yourself from having to do that over the phone with the family or like the nursing home, and just
yeah,
go through the process, as they approach.
yeah. And one thing there is, we really wanted to just cut down on how much time it takes with those phone calls and text
Hmm.
messages back and forth. And with this is, you would just go in and put that information in, and then once you save it, it's going to go to whoever your removal company is, as long as they have a login. I have a client down in Texas, and they do all their own removals to their funeral home, but
Uh-huh.
sometimes he brings in a contractor to
Right.
help overflow. And so for that contractor, they have to use the MorTrack app for his business. So
Yeah.
anytime he calls them, so he has them set up in his account as a user. And one thing we do have is user permissions. So we found that is very important because the billing information in there, because we can get billing. And then when your team is out in the field, they could have products set in there. So let's say they use the body bag and you charge, $100 for this body bag.
Yeah.
They can select that. You charge $200 for the removal. Then you can set mileage rates in there. So that covers so
Wow.
many miles and it's over that. So at the end of the month or end of the week, or you can pull it daily if you wanted to, we have an invoicing report. And so I could go in there and say, okay, this is our invoicing report. This is what we need to add to the bill, however you want to do that, whoever's paying for it. And so right now they can just look in there and say, okay, this was the total cost for us for this removal. And then, so there's places you can put numbers and prices. And like I said, we try to keep it very um, open to a lot of different things
Right.
so the clients can customize what they need.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
that's an important thing to do because every
Yeah.
funeral home is different, every removal company is different. Um, so let's say, for example, like if I submitted something, I have access to our removal service. Let's say you're outsourcing. Does that automatically? I think you were saying that. Does that automatically apply to someone in the region? I think you said that before. Is that how it works, or does it need some sort of approval, or how does that process work with coming from the funeral home and the removal side of things?
Yeah, so I mean, it would be something where it would have to be your removal company, your client, or not your client, but so there would be an approval process. We don't just send it out to any removal company.
Right, but
So
I was saying more like if I only use one company,
okay,
but
yeah,
does it? I'm assuming I'm taking it probably a step too far, where it would be easier just to tell the removal company and they could put it in their own MorTrack system. Or do you ever
yeah,
have a funeral home just go in and they have like this is the service I use and I can just put it in? How does that work?
it goes both ways.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it can go either. I'll use one of our removal companies, for example.
sure.
They deal with the medical examiner's office.
Hmm.
And so, how it works is the medical examiners, they all have access to MorTrack. And so, when a case comes in, they put the case in right there. Now, they only have limited view,
Okay.
and so, um, once again, it
Ah,
falls back on those permissions.
I
They don't
see.
need admin access. They don't need removal tech access.
Yeah.
Theirs is basically what we call entity portal access. So they can
Okay.
put the case information in. Once they save that, that sends an alert to the removal company. Now the removal company gets that alert through our MoreTrack app. It's a banner alert that every 2 minutes populates on the phone. Then they go
Yeah,
on
I was wondering
then
that.
they go in there and decide who they want to assign it to. Then they pick their driver or their removal tech and they assign it. Then it's going to send an alert to them. And then now they either accept it or decline it. Some of our funeral
Very
homes,
cool.
same way. It depends on who's the permissions there. Do you have a dispatch person? Is it an office person? If you have a removal team there at your local funeral home, then the call comes in. Whoever's taking the call, they can put that information in. Then they can assign it directly to one of your removal techs. That's one of your employees.
Yeah,
So no
that's
matter where they're at, I mean, they could be out and about running and picking up flowers or whatever that may be. Another thing too is you can, like, let's say you have airport pickup.
hmm.
So the call comes in, and let's say tomorrow on Southwest or Delta flight, this is coming in. I can get the flight number, the flight time, the way bill. I can get all that information, and I put it on that case, and I
Oh,
can assign it to, let's just say it's Aaron. I can assign it to Aaron tomorrow, and so tomorrow he'll know.
I got
Now
something
for
going. Yeah.
me, that case has been handled. I can go back and focus on what I need to focus on at my funeral home or at my transport company because it's already been assigned.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool, and it makes it easier for everyone. And I love that you have the alerts because we know the timeliness is such an important factor.
Yeah.
It's like you're the Uber of picking up bodies. Is the way I look
Well,
at it.
well, that is what one person referred to us early on. They
Uh-huh.
said, and we've used it, but we've been very careful because you know, as people are like, we there's just different things. But somebody said, "You guys are like Uber for dead people,"
Yeah,
and we're like, yeah, kind of. I mean, we kind of are,
yeah. It's just a
in that.
different sort of ride share.
Yeah, yeah, still right, sure. Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
you can split the cost in there in the back where they do, yeah, with Uber, but but
Put
it
the little
is, yeah,
quizzes in the back and everything.
yeah,
It's that's cool. I mean, it's very useful. Especially, it makes me. I have enough action right now. But if I
yeah,
was a young funeral director, I'd be like, this would be an easy way to start a removal company using you
yeah,
guys. Like, you just got to build a team around you, or even if you had a group of people working all together and saying, hey, we can. I mean, you're taking the hardest part, not the hardest. You're taking
yeah,
the hardest logistical part out of
yeah,
it, where it's trying to find out who's picking up who and when and how is it all working. That's challenging. And that's like why a lot of the removal companies are so valuable, is because that's a challenging thing to figure out,
hmm,
then actually doing the process. That's, you know, most people don't
yeah.
like doing
I
that. It's
think
not fun. But
you know,
if I was a young funeral director, I'm just saying, food for thought. I mean, this is a cool way to get your foot in the door in some funeral homes, and most of the time, it's a younger person's game. Like being in the removal industry, not too many people do it for that long. Some do, and God bless them, but it ain't for me
yeah,
though.
yeah. I mean, I know it's a tough job. I know it's a tough job, and just
Yeah,
the wear and tear on your body and your
right,
mind and everything. And I think some of it, I think one thing that we did look at was, there's a lot of things that were duplicated efforts that really didn't need to be there. So I mean, just think about the forms. I mean, if you got four forms to fill out, how
yeah,
much of that information you're just duplicating on another sheet,
unnecessary,
and that's mind numbing stuff and stuff. And
right.
it's like, and I think that's when accidents happen. That's when errors happen. Is when
You let
they're
it slip a little bit. Yep,
Yep, when they're transferring all that, or maybe it's somebody put somebody in this certain storage area, but they forgot to mark it on the sheet that was outside.
right,
Because they got busy, they got another call. Those are the little things that we looked at that said, listen, if we can, so-called automate that,
right.
a scan, and now they're in that location.
Yep,
That just freed up. I mean, maybe it's a couple minutes, but you take that couple minutes per case, multiply that by how many cases you have
it's a ton.
throughout the year, you're talking weeks of time.
It's a ton of
Yeah,
time, and not to mention, you're just making it easier. The other
yeah,
stuff, like that, is just a tedious part of it. Is documentation and labeling and permits and forms that you have to do. It's just
yeah.
making it a lot easier. I'm curious as to who has helped develop a lot of the different features, because you've had to work with funeral directors and funeral homes, because if you're not in the industry, you don't know these little things that can be pain
Yeah.
points. So I'm curious, how'd you get a lot of this insight?
Early on, it was a removal company that we would lean on heavily out here, and then um, just reaching out to people and talking to them about. I started reaching out to people that were in the business and the industry,
Yeah,
and I just said, "Hey, I would love to show you what we have and get your feedback."
yeah,
There's a gentleman out of Tennessee that I had met with a couple years ago, and I mean, I showed him, probably had to be like our first or second build, and he gave me a ton of information. And he's like, here's what's going to help you. You need this, you need this, you need this, and you need this.
yeah,
And those things that, a lot of it was timestamps. I can't remember everything, but
right,
all those things, we have now. And then also, One of our other sales guys, he's from the we hired him. He's from the industry, being a funeral director for 18 years himself and an
Yep.
embalmer.
Mm-hmm.
Then he was on the vendor side, and he was looking for a change. And hey, he was a great fit for our organization. I met him at a
Yeah.
couple shows, and so he works for us. So a lot of his knowledge going to him. We still do today. Basically, our dev team, our development team, we have an in-house development team,
Mm-hmm.
and so we lean on him a lot. Like, hey, are we using the right verbiage? What does this process look like? What are we missing? What else could happen during this process that we don't know because we've never been in there doing that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But really, it's been a lot of client feedback. I always tell everybody that I can't promise everything, but I can promise a conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
Michael, it'd be something like, if you came and said, "Hey, we really, we like the app, but what about this feature?" Sometimes we just say, "Hey, you know what? That makes sense." And for the last couple of years, that pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I can't say everything, but let's just say about 95% of anything that was presented to us, we've built.
Wow. That's amazing.
Some of
Impressive.
it was just kind of way off, and then you're talking, you
It's
know,
too much.
a whole new build of the more mobile app, and I'm like the easy button can only go so far.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So to answer your question, and um, a lot of people. I mean, really, a lot of people from the
Yeah.
funeral industry to the removal companies. Um, we even have a thing on our app where they can leave with the family. So when the case comes up, there's a QR code, and you can have the family actually scan that, and then it gives a little tracker. And
Yeah.
it doesn't give times, it does not give exact locations. It basically just says somebody's been assigned to your loved one is in the care, to
Yep.
give them that peace of mind. And
Yeah.
you know that came from a person that wasn't even in the industry. We talked with people saying, hey, if your loved one passed away, what would you like to know? And so,
Where they're at.
yeah, where they're at. And
Yeah.
I think, like I said, it doesn't have to be specific, but it's they know their loved ones in the care of the funeral home.
Sure. What did your family and friends think when you got into this? It's so interesting because you come from insurance, so it's very different.
It was. I've had every question known to mankind.
I'm sure.
I remember when my boss and we had signed up to go to Cana,
Hmm.
and it was like, cremate. Well, going to a cremation show, and I said, oh man, I have no idea. I'm like, what kind of presentations do they do there? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't, I have no clue. So that very first Cana meeting in Seattle was, we both went in like, we're gonna learn a lot, and some of this might scare us. I don't know, but it was. But yeah, getting back from that, I had a lot of people. Hey, what was it like? What'd they show you? Did you see some? Like, no, no, it
Uh-uh.
wasn't. I said it's products. I said it's services, products, and then they're learning from each other and the
Yeah.
presenters and stuff. But I get all kinds of questions all the time. You know,
It's yeah, it seems like you got a good beat on it and you've learned
yeah,
a lot about the ins and outs, and it's very important to understand that because I asked you some deep like funeral director questions and you're on it, so that's super cool. My
oh
last
yeah,
my
I
last
jumped
question would
in
be
both feet. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
My last question would be, do you have any new features that you just came out with, or is there anything in development right now that you're working on that is gonna help more people out?
Yeah, I mean, right now, one of the things that we're doing is custom reporting.
Okay.
So we take a lot of information in from different cases and different fields, um, and we have some canned reports in there right now. These
Hmm.
were reports that, hey, based on our tracking knowledge, these are some reports. We'll throw this data in there. But we heard a lot saying, hey, we need this field, we need this field, or people saying, hey, we don't need any of those fields. Can you cut it down?
Yeah.
So we're probably, I'm going to say 3 weeks away right now.
Nice.
From we've been working on it for a little bit, but it's going to have an area where any field that we collected information throughout that case, you can build that field into a report.
Yeah,
So
that's
we'll have
great.
our canned ones. Then you go in there and say, I want this information, and that's it. Then you can do that. So that's one thing we're doing right now. Trying to think of some other things. We're actually doing a build this week that we're adding a couple additional areas for timestamps.
Okay.
So, um, just more. It's just more accountability, just
Yep.
more accountability, and I think that's one thing I talk to a lot of people about with our app is, even if this could be a part of your process and letting families know this is how it was with all the horror stories out there right now.
Right.
Hey, this is how accountable we are to you. We use this software called MorTrack that keeps track of your loved one throughout the process. Um,
Yeah.
Trying to think of anything right now. It's off the top of my head. Um,
I think that
yeah,
gives them a lot of peace of mind for a
yeah,
family too.
yeah,
It's an important thing that they know they're being taken care of, and it's we're in that information era where everyone wants to know everything, and so
yeah,
if we're able to provide that to the family, and it's useful for them, then why not? I say.
yeah. Exactly. I mean, here's a tool. Use it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's peace of mind, and and it's also peace of mind for a funeral director. How many vacations? How many vacations do you get a year as a funeral director?
Well, now it varies because I go to shows and stuff sometimes, but
Yeah,
maybe a couple.
yeah,
Typically
but the
a
shows
typical.
become your vacation.
Yeah, for me, yeah. But
That's what I.
a typical probably a couple. I don't. It all. I
Okay,
think it all
yeah,
depends, but the
yeah.
more
I
the
just hear it
better.
from a
You
lot of
need
people.
them.
Yeah, I just hear from a lot of people, that say, we don't really get to go on vacation because we got to be there the whole time and know what's going on, and
Yeah,
we handle everything. And I
yeah.
tell everybody, listen, you know, how would you like a software that you could be in Australia right now, sitting on the beach over there, and if you kind of just wanted to know what was going on, you could log into MorTrack from Australia, and you could see all the cases where they're at right now in your
Yeah,
facility. If you wanted to check and see your internal locations, but you can see everything new that's coming in, right
yeah,
there. Maybe that'll give you a little more time. Maybe it's not Australia, but maybe it's just a little more free time that you can spend with your kids or your family or something
yeah.
like that. Especially on the you know the paper side and all this other stuff. If it's digitally there and you can just look and it takes you or invoicing. How long does it take you to especially for removal companies, their invoicing is they're taking
That's
all
hard.
paper
Yeah.
and adding that up. And so if we can shorten those time frames down, couple we're looking, I don't want to mention any names because we're still in the works, but
Hmm.
a couple things that you'll see in the future here are integrations with
Okay.
other pieces of software.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an accounting software, maybe it's a funeral home software, but
Hmm.
that is our goal is to integrate with as many of these other softwares out there to complete the package. And
Yeah.
so, um, and then you'll probably see us here in a couple other countries soon. So
That's cool.
we're working with a couple other countries right now, to start offering our services there. So next year we're heading into some changes here, but for the
Sure.
good, expanding the market area and expanding our services. But,
That's
yeah,
wonderful. Well, we'll catch you in Australia then. I'd say.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's been a great time talking to you, Jose. Thanks for giving us the rundown for what you guys are doing. You're helping funeral homes, and I think a lot of people would get some value out of that. Especially those removal teams like that. That's a big thing, saving you time, saving you effort. So, Jose, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Go check out MorTrack, and we'll catch you in Australia then.
yeah. Right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time, and thank you once again for having me on your podcast here. And let us know if we can do anything to help in the future.
Oh yeah, perfect.